What's up? My name's Dan. Behind me is my Volkswagen mk4 R32. As you can see, the engine bay is looking a little bit empty right now. And the motor, as you can see, is pretty far torn down. So let's start getting this thing back together. So the engine is mostly assembled now. Valve cover's on. I got some of the accessories and stuff on. Oil cooler, auxiliary water pump, that kind of stuff. For the most part though, everything else that needs to go on, I plan on doing inside the car. So I am gonna move on to starting to clean up the engine bay and getting it ready for the motor to go in. I need to pull these manifolds off so I can install my new heat shield that's going on the firewall. Also gonna clean up some of the wiring over here. You can see I kinda did a little bit already, just tucking all the stuff that I don't need off to the side. Next step is gonna be over here. I actually ordered a Wilwood brake bias valve also, and I'm gonna delete the ABS module. And I have a new fuse box that's going in. Right here's the new fuse box. It's gonna replace this guy. You can see this one got a little bit burnt up right after Wookies in the Woods last year actually. So I'm gonna be replacing it with this safety hub. Gonna do a nice clean install somewhere down in this area. Haven't quite decided yet, but probably something like that. All right, so I went through a lot of the harness on that side of the engine bay, stripped back a good portion of it, and kind of laid my airbox in there just to mock it up along with the transmission mount. Thinking I'm most likely going to route the harness down through the factory location in the firewall right here, and then under the airbox and between the transmission mount, I have my Blue Sea Systems fuse box right here. I'm gonna build a little metal bracket to mount it on an angle, kind of like that, right where the battery used to be. And next step is I'm going to jack the car up so I could get these downpipes off and I'm gonna install the new heat shield that goes on the firewall back there. Alright, just finished getting the exhaust out. It put up way more of a fight than I was expecting it to. I ended up having to drop the subframe and remove the manifolds with the catalytic converters all as one piece because those bolts were all frozen together and would not come off. I also ended up taking out my front sway bar, which was already disconnected while I was under there and had the subframe out already. And now that the exhaust manifolds are out, I got the subframe back up. Time to put the heat shield on the firewall that I got and go back to redoing some of the wiring, getting this all cleaned up and looking pretty. Because right now it looks terrible. All right, so as far as the engine bay, we got our new fuse box wired in. You can see I did sleeve a lot of the wires that are going to be visible, and once it gets back into here, that's all going to be covered up and you're not going to see. Same thing up here, this is all sleeved and looking nice. Got the heat shield installed on the firewall with my Zealous MFG beauty washers holding that on. This side of the engine compartment you can see is pretty nicely cleaned up. I did roll the car out into the driveway and pressure wash the whole engine bay just to get it a little bit cleaner than it was because it was pretty grimy in there. You can see down here on the subframe it's still a little bit grimy, but a good amount did come off with the pressure washing. Headlight harness is sleeved and got that tucked up nicely along the frame rail over here. The motor is much more together than it was. Next step is going to probably be getting the clutch and flywheel installed, getting the engine back onto the transmission, and then putting both of them in the car before we finish up the rest of the wiring. That is probably going to be it for this video though. Next video, like I said, we will be working on getting the engine and transmission back up together and back into the car, and then moving forward from there, continuing to get the engine bay cleaned up and getting everything wired up and plumbed and get it running.